Welcome back to the Immune System Crusade. I'm Dr. Mincey. Today we're going to talk about step number 4 out of the 10 immune boosting steps against COVID-19, other viruses and bacteria. Please be sure to look back at steps 1, 2, and 3 because they play a pivotal role in the journey or in interrupting the journey that an invader takes to go from the outside of the body to the inside. We covered 3 steps and now we're in number 4, which deals with enzyme activity that's present in snot and in mucous membranes. What's an enzyme? An enzyme is simply a protein that's used to destroy things. And there are many types and ways that go well beyond what we'll discuss today, but we're going to talk to you about some basic things you can do to help the enzyme processes that are happening in your mouth, in your saliva, in your body, as these are part of the protective mechanism that keeps you healthy and keeps things outside that belong out and inside that belong in. So what can you do? Your action step number 4, of course, is to have someone on your health team evaluate and talk to you about enzyme therapies. There are actual enzyme therapies that exist. Why would these exist? These therapies exist because as we age, at about the age of 40, enzyme processes are not as vibrant or as good as they were when we were much younger. This is why when people get a little bit older, their response time, their response rate to recovery from injuries and infections might take a little bit longer. And this is all dependent on a good quality immune system. And it also is impacted in a very large way by your consumption of whole, quality, unadulterated foods. What would be some examples of that? Well, we could buy a whole piece of meat, a steak, and eat it. That's a whole food. Or we could buy a hamburger which has been ground up and sitting on a shelf for some time and breaking down gradually day after day due to its exposure of light. The meat in its whole form has many enzymes that are needed to digest it. But when a person takes in the meat in its ground form, they then put a stress on their body because it has to work harder to break that down. Similarly, the same thing occurs with vegetables. It's amazing. A vegetable has everything that it needs to be digested in the vegetable. But it must be chewed in it must be well chewed, and then once it's well chewed, it can help and it can break down itself. But if it's not well chewed, if it's swallowed whole, or if it's been overcooked, then that vegetable doesn't have the actual thing that needs to be broken down, and it's left to the body to go ahead and break that down. And it can be a stressor at times if a person is depleted. There are also some vitamin deficiencies that come up that make the body unable to make certain enzymes and break things down. A really common one is that of zinc. And zinc is involved in over 500 chemical processes every minute or so in the human body. And without it, the body doesn't function as well. One warning here, though, before you go out and take lots of zinc is if you take too much zinc and you don't need it, you actually suppress your immune system. It's got to be the right amount. Junk foods. Who doesn't know this? A lot of us don't, but it's just so easy to get junk food. And one of the best things you can do is avoid junk foods or try to substitute those junk foods with less harmful types of foods that are actually made from whole foods. So if you could have a cookie that was made from a whole almond flour, even though it had sugar in it, it'd be a better choice than eating a cookie that was made from white flour. Because the one that had the whole flour, had whole almond flour, may have had more nutrients in it and required less work for the body to break it down. If you take and you eat junk food over and over again, year after year, day after day, eventually the body starts running out of resources to process the junk food. Because the food has in it, in its whole form, what's needed for you to break it down. The consequence of this is what we talked about in step 3, that the body becomes very, very, very acid and requires a whole bunch of other types of actions to try to correct it. This is why professional help is sometimes needed. that's a lot to talk about and think about. That's step 4. Optimize Snot's enzyme balance. And the way we do that is by eating whole foods, avoiding junk foods, and in many cases a professional consultation for enzyme therapy, a very real thing where we add things to the body to boost the enzyme levels and boost immunity. It's quite amazing. But an enzyme therapy, that is step number 4 of optimizing Snot's enzyme balance as the viruses and bacteria try to go in and infiltrate the body. One more barrier is enzymes. How are your enzymes? Well, that's all that we have for today. I'm Dr. Tyran Mincey, giving you 10 immune boosting steps against COVID-19 and other viruses and bacteria. And today we present number 4. And I'm glad you joined us to continue on our immune system crusade. And I want you to remember, there's an immune system inside. Thank you.